What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Axie. I'm a filmmaker and cinematographer based in Los Angeles, California. Last week, I released my newest short film called Interrupted. You guys were very nice and you left a lot of nice comments underneath that video, praising especially the cinematography and the lighting. So today, before I wipe down my hard drive and move on to my next film, I just want to take a second and break down 3 different cinematic looks from 3 different scenes from that short film, and with the help of some BTS material, hopefully you guys can see how I lit those shots, and maybe if there's something to learn from it, you will. But before we jump right into this breakdown, take a second and go watch Interrupted, the short film, so that you can follow this breakdown much easier, and also you can let me know if you like the film or not. But with that said, let's jump in the computer and let's break down the first cinematic look.
This is a really nice couch.
Yeah, it's from Costco. Alright guys, so the very first cinematic look we're breaking down today, it's the couch conversation between Lauren and Joe. During the short film, this is a long and pivotal moment, and because it was gonna be, pretty much the same scene for 7 to 8 minutes, I really wanted to make sure that I was able to achieve a very pleasant and soft lighting. Just because, like I said before, being it was gonna be a long moment, I knew that the audience was gonna have the eyes on this scene for a long time. So let's analyze for a second this freeze frame here, and let's break down the lighting. As you guys can see, our key light is clearly coming camera left, and I'm gonna show you later on what it is. On the back, we have, a practical light on a nightstand. Inside the practical light, there's an aperture MC set to 3200 Kelvin. The reason why I put an aperture MC instead of a regular bulb, it's because I wanna make sure that the temperature is really the same across all the fixtures that I have on set. So along with the practical, here on top of it, we have a hair light. And it's of course off camera, but right here there's a Quasar science tube set again at 3200 Kelvin. And for the key light, because I wanted something extra soft that I couldn't achieve with the classic aperture softbox, just so you understand what I'm talking about, let me show you how I did it. Let me pull up some BTS. Here we are. So this is the couch where Laura and Joe are having the conversation. Behind them, there's a white wall. So as I said before many times in this channel, I hate white walls. They're the death pretty much of set design because they're so white and boring, and they just really don't look good on camera. So what I did first thing was to pull the couch away from the wall so that we don't get this white walls right behind the actors. And then I use the white wall itself as a big bounce board for my key light, which is an Aperture Nova set at 3200 Kelvin. Now, after I've done that, let me show you what I did. I pretty much trapped the Nova inside a giant softbox that I built with a 4x4 floppy, and on the other side I put a black blanket, and I diffused the light bouncing off the wall with a shower curtain. So that's how I achieved a very, very soft lighting. The reason why I wanted to build a softbox around my key light, it's because I really wanted to have the light to just come forward toward the actors and not spill all over the room, so that I could keep these very nice contrast ratios that I have here. So she's very lit, but the back is very dark. If I wouldn't have put those flags on the sides, the whole room would have looked overly lit and we would have lost our contrast ratio. Let me show you the lighting diagram so that we can go over this one more time. Right here. So here we have Lauren sitting on the couch. Behind her, there's the Aperture MC set at 3200 Kelvin. Right on top of her, we have a Quasar science tube set again at 3200 Kelvin. And then here, in the wall that we don't see camera left, I put the Aperture Nova shooting again light at 3200 Kelvin, bouncing off the wall, coming through a shower curtain, trapped in between a negative 4x4 floppy and a black blanket. And that's it. That's pretty much how this lighting was done. So anytime you're at home and you hit your white walls, well, lesson of the day, try to avoid the white walls in the back, but you can use those white walls as a big bounce boards for your light in order to achieve an extra soft look.
Damn it, I just got shot.
Second cinematic lighting breakdown of the day, it's the gaming grandma. First off, I just want to shout out Dorothy, who is 91 years old and came out to do her part for our short film. She's a real trooper. She memorized her lines and she killed it. So let me just break down a little bit this scene. She's she's the typical character you don't expect to pop at this point in the story. She's clearly old, too old for playing video games, at least to the current stereotype that we have for older people. And I think that this look kind of very fits the character very well. You know, she's an older person, she lives in a house where she has wallpapers, which is something, you know, old school. She's got the the bedroom is clearly from an older person, but she's very tacky and she's got colored lights all over the room, you know? So it's this contrast between modern and vintage that I wanted to recreate. So breaking down the lighting here, it's very, very simple. We have two aperture MCs set to pink inside these two lamps. Here on top of her, you know, we have a Yongnuo YN360, which is essentially another RGB light that's very cheap. It's just, you know, $70–80, just to kind of reinforce that pink on her hair. You know, these lights were not bright enough to give her a hair light colored, so I add another, you know, colored lights right here just to give that hint of pink on her hair as well. And behind her, you know, just to give her some depth and some color separation, it's you know, a green aperture MC that it's hidden, you know, under the pillows. And you know, in front we have also another light that's going on. I don't know if you guys can see it, but throughout the film you can see the ambient lighting changing a little bit because we are simulating with an aperture nova at TV. We have an aperture nova that's right in front of her, very diffused, and then her key light, it's an aperture 120D with a light dome and a snap grid to lighter at 3200 Kelvin. The reason why we put the snap grid on top of it, it's because we really wanted to light just her and nothing else. Again, try to keep those contrast ratio, you know. It's very nice to have the character well lit, but then have a darker background with occasional splashes of lights. And in this case, these are colored lights because it fit the character. Now let me show you a little bit at BTS so that I can show you a little bit better what I mean. So like I said, this is the aperture 120D with the snap grid. We put it 3200 Kelvin gel inside, and that's it. You know, we have that Yongnuo YN360 I was telling you about. We have the MCs in the back, and that's pretty much it. Now let me also pull out, you know, the lighting diagram that I made for this scene. As you guys can see, the two aperture MCs. This is Dorothy. Here we have the aperture nova on the TV effect in front of her to flicker some lights and give the feeling that she's in front of a TV. Right on top of her hair light, a Yongnuo YN360. In order to give some extra color separation, we added, you know, a splash of green in the back, and the aperture 120D with the CTO gel, softbox, and snap grid. And this is pretty much it for this one cinematic look. Let's move on to the next one. Alright guys, so third and final breakdown of the day. It's the final scene of the short film where we have our actor Jonas, who throws a knife while riding his bicycle at night and goes camera right. And that's the final shot of the film. So this shot was not easy to do, especially because we were running on a very low budget, low to no budget. And you know, I wanted to have a moving shot. I wanted to have him on a bicycle. I wanted to recreate something that was Stranger Things like. So pretty much because of all the limitation that you have when you're working with like cinema cameras that don't have autofocus, and because I cannot hire a focus puller, and because I cannot have all the lighting in the world, I thought that the only way I could achieve a shot like that in a very simple way was to have the Sony A7siii, because you know, it's a small camera that I can, you know, just fly on my pistol gimbal as I run off with the talent. And in terms of lighting, I didn't need to have too much light with that camera because, you know, with those crazy low light performance, you know, that camera is pretty much possible of really incredible things. And also I needed autofocus, right? Because if I'm operating a gimbal, there's no way I can pull focus and operate the gimbal by myself. We shot this in S-Log3 at 12,800 ISO, so crazy ISO values. That's also because the lens that I had with that camera was the Sony 24-105, which is not the brightest lens, it's an f4. But you know, I want to thank my girlfriend Paisley for borrowing me her Sony A7S III and her lens. So let me show you very quickly how we took this shot, because it's actually very cool. Here we are. All right, let's go kind of right about here. Here we have our actor Jonas on the bike, as you guys can see. Here's me with the Sony A7S on my gimbal. And here there's Joe, who's providing the key light illumination for Jonas. This is a very, very run and gun situation, of course, as you guys can see. So Joe is pretty much holding a C-stand arm, where on the knuckle, there's a Quasar Science tube that's set to 3200 Kelvin, so that it matches a little bit better the color temperature of the vapor sodium lights. And in front of it, there's a silk. Now, there's not a ton of diffusion in front of it, but here's a little trick. When lighting kids, you don't need too much diffusion to get a soft look, because the skin of the kids is it's very smooth, so you don't need too much diffusion. And pretty much that's it. I'm running with the camera facing on the other side, so that was a little bit trippy to frame the shot. But you know, with having Joe running next to me, provided pretty much that very nice constant key light that's on top of our actors. Now, another thing that I really want you guys to pay attention to is the fact that this shot was done on a street at night, but it's uphill. You know, we're running uphill. And the reason for that, it's for the composition. So what I want you guys to really pay attention to this shot, and what I think more than the lighting, which is pretty basic, it's the fact that, you know, I think I framed the shot pretty well, being I wanted it uphill so that in the background I could see the city lights that are, you know, making the background very interesting, but also in that way I could have the street lights being pretty much on top of our characters. And as you guys can see, you know, those practical lights that, you know, are just there are serving us very well as a sort of hair light. So I pretty much just had, you know, a key light, but the hair light was already provided by the street lights, and I think the overall shots looks very busy. Now in front of it, as you guys of course have seen, there's an aperture MC set to like a cooler temperature so that we get color contrast. The whole color palette of the film is very color contrasty. We have the blues and we have the yellow tones, and the same goes for the lighting. You know, we have a warm lighting and we have the blue sky that matches the blue light and the blue jacket, while the yellow tones of the shirt and the lights, it's all about color contrast. And I thought about it, you know, in advance so that we could get the more color contrast possible. So color grading, it's important, but it's also very important to prepare your scene so that it has the most color contrast possible, if that's the look you're going for. It's a very, very interesting shot because there's many lights going on to it. There's a lot of depth to it. You know, we got our character, we got the, you know, the practical, we got the background of the city. And, you know, because of that uphill position, we get to frame everything together. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And also, if you have any question, don't hesitate to ask. I usually reply to all my comments. Before I let you go, don't forget to watch Interrupted if you still haven't watched it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios. See ya.